Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how to divide fractions. And to divide fractions, the first thing you need to do is to make sure, turn both fractions or both numbers into a fraction. So in this case it's a mixed number. So we're going to change it into an improper fraction. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So we have 5 halves divided by 1/4. So now we got both numbers are fractions because this already 1/4 already was a fraction. The next step is you invert and multiply by the second number. So this division symbol becomes multiplication. The 1/4 becomes a 4/1, and then the 5 halves stays the same, 5 halves. So you are inverting, that's the reciprocal right here, and this division becomes a multiplication, and then you multiply across. However, we know that we can do some reducing here prior to multiplying because this 4 really is a 2 times 2, and then we have a 2/2, and of course 2/2 equals 1. So this 2 and this 2 equals a 1. So this is a big long lying down 1 here, right there. So in the numerator we end up getting 5 times 1 times 2, which is 10, over, and then down here we've got 1 times 1, which is 1. So our answer is 10 wholes. And that actually makes sense because if you think about it, if you think about 2.5 on the number line starts at 0, and you have 1, 2, and then here's 3, 1, 2, and 2.5 is right here at 2.5. And then if we want to know, well, how many 1/4 are in 2.5, well, we know there's 4/4 in one hole, there's 4/4 in this hole, and then in this, going from 2 to 3, there would be 4/4, but to go to 2.5, there'd be 4 here, 4 here, plus 2, so there's our 10. So 1/4 fits into 2.5 10 times. In this problem, we've got two mixed numbers, so the first thing we're going to do is turn them both into improper fractions. So this becomes 25/8 divided by 10/3. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 1 is 25. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Next step, we're going to invert this second fraction, or do the reciprocal of that second fraction, and get 3/10. The division becomes multiplication as a result, and 25/8 stays the same, 25/8. And then before we go multiplying across, let's reduce if there's anything that can be reduced. And sure enough, I see that 25 can be written as 5 times 5, and I could see that 10 can be written as 5 times 2. And there's our 1. I see a 5/5 equaling 1. So this 5 and this 5 equals 1 whole. And so now in the numerator, we end up with 5 times 1 times 3, which is 15. And in the denominator, we have 8 times 1 times 2, which is 16. This is a nice proper fraction, cannot be reduced. It's not improper, it's all good. We're done. Now in this fraction division problem, we've got a mixed number here, we've got a whole number here, and a lot of students kind of get confused about what to do with that whole number here. Well, first let's take this mixed number and turn it into an improper fraction. That's pretty easy. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 3 is 8, so we have 8/5 divided by, now if the goal is to take this number and turn it into a fraction, boy, that's pretty easy. Just take the 3 and just plop it right on top of a 1. So 3 and 3/1 are the same thing, but now we have a fraction. So now we can take its reciprocal, 1/3. The division becomes multiplication. 8/5 stays 8/5. I don't see any numbers here that can be factored in a way that will reduce anything. There's nothing that can be cross-canceled, in other words. So we just multiply straight across. 8 times 1 is 8. 5 times 3 is 15. And in this case, we are done.